What is up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. We have ourselves a big-time show today. First and foremost, we have ourselves a guest. He is the head coach of the Ohio State men's volleyball team. And this guy has a plethora of awards, and he's been a part of teams that he's won NCAA championships with. We're talking about Kevin Burch. Also, we have some volleyball recapping news. The AVP had their first event in the Monster Hydro Cup in the city of Long Beach, aka the 562. Who emerged victorious on the men's and women's side? Also, the CIF Southern section has made their decision regarding fall sports. Will they start on time, or will they be pushed back? All that and more here on Set Point. This is Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome, everybody, yet again to another edition of Set Point. Like I said, my name is Teran Rodriguez. I'll be your host for tonight. Unfortunately, we don't have Jack Stafford tonight, but that's alright. The guy had to work, and he's out here making that money. So, without any further delay, let us introduce our guest. He is the head coach of the Ohio State men's volleyball team. And he's had a plethora of championship experiences with many teams such as Ohio State and also Penn State. Without any further delay, let us introduce the one, the only, Mr. Kevin Burch. How are we doing tonight, Kevin?
Doing well. That's quite the intro, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, Kevin. I gotta make a good first impression with you. And
you always do.
Yes. So yeah, glad you're here with us on Set Point, and thank you for taking time out of your day. I know you're on the East Coast, so we'll try to get through this as fast as possible, because I know how busy you are. So, without any further delay, let's get into this interview. First and foremost, the disclaimer. So, these are the opinions and thoughts of Teran Rodriguez and of Kevin Burch. So, just in case anyone is suspicious and whatnot, these are not the opinions of Ohio State, Long Beach State, or IE Sports Radio, and whatnot. So, all right. So, now that that's out of the way, Kevin, the floor is all yours. Tell the listeners out there who you are and what you do in terms of volleyball and how you got into volleyball.
Well, I'm currently the luckiest coach in the world. I'm the head coach at Ohio State for the men's volleyball program. And I was born and raised in Southern California, city of Orange, actually, and made my way up through Balboa Bay Volleyball Club and Orange Coast College, Travis Turner, and then got into coaching as a volunteer at Ohio State and moved my way around the country, and from Irvine to Springfield to Penn State women and back to Ohio State. So, just super, super fortunate to be where I'm at and to be with great people, and to have met a lot of great people along the way as well. But yeah, just lucky to be a part of this great sport and happy to be here as well. So thanks again for having me here.
Absolutely. The pleasure is all mine. All right. So you talked about Travis Turner. He was actually a guest on Set Point a little while ago. What were some of the more memorable moments that you had with Travis when you were at Orange Coast College?
There's so many. Travis is one of the most genuine people I've ever met. He's somebody somebody that has, truly has the best interest of every person he coaches and every person he works with. I think some of the things that stand out are, just when we had, guys on that Orange Coast team that, clearly could have helped us, but he knew it wasn't in their best interest. So he either hold them out of practice or, hold them out of the, practice for the semester, making those tough decisions that had to have, had to have been tough for him, but were always in the best interest of those players. I think those types of things always spoke volumes to me because it showed you can do it the right way for the sake of student athletes, but also still win and teach guys how to work hard. And so there's a lot of funny memories as well, but those are the ones that come to mind first.
Awesome, that's great to hear. So when you had to leave before you left for Ohio State, you actually were a part of you were assistant coach for UC Irvine. So how was that like, and what was that team like, being a part of a team such as UC Irvine? Yeah,
well, I mean, it was interesting because it was going from, that was after winning a championship at Springfield and at for Ohio State men. And, Springfield, we were the number one team for most of the year, but it was also a unique situation in that we were the hunted coming off the championship the prior year. But there's a lot of talented guys on that team. Jeremy Dano, Kevin Tilley, so many more, Zach Alcavera. But it was really my first opportunity as an assistant. I learned a lot. I learned a lot from mistakes and from great people around me there. But it was a really cool opportunity to be part of a really great team with a lot of talented players, and it was just a truly unique experience that I learned a great deal from.
Great stuff. Now, you being from Southern California and you having to move up to probably the cold of Columbus, Ohio, was it pretty? Did you have to take a while for it to adapt to being in the cold of Ohio instead of being in sunny SoCal?
It was just something that was so different. Just the culture of that university, and obviously it's something I truly am passionate about and love because I'm still here. But there's so much to this university that I didn't know about before I came, and just being exposed to something like that was so different than anything I had seen before was nostalgic and pretty cool, and made up for a lot of the weather that was there. But honestly, I went to grad school later on in New England, and that I learned is a whole different level of cold. In Columbus, it snows maybe about 4 inches max per storm. In New England, my little Honda Civica was covered numerous times by a single snowstorms there. So I learned pretty quickly what true winter weather is, and that is not in Columbus.
You also were a part of the Penn State Women's Volleyball Championship as you were the director of operations. What was that like, eventually coaching at a Big Ten rival? It
was, I met my wife during that time, so that was, first and foremost, that was a great time, and still is paying off. I'm still out kicking my coverage, thankfully. But, I learned an immense amount from Les Rose. I accomplished things that I never thought possible. I was pushed really hard, but I was pushed to be outside my comfort zone every day and pushed to work really hard every day. And, at certain times I was uncomfortable and stressed, but I think it was one of those situations where I really learned what I could do and gained a lot of self-confidence from that experience. But, to see that type of program being run the way it is, and it was at the time, taught me a lot about, how to be successful in my current job. I reference a lot from being director of ops and being a director of ops at Penn State. I reference a lot from that time and that position, probably as much as any other position I've had.
It's great stuff. Now let's fast forward to your time with being an assistant coach for Ohio State. You won back-to-back championships. What was that feeling like, knowing that you were a part of something big?
Yeah, it was really fun to roll the ball and watch Nick Zerza and Miles Johnson and those guys just dominate. Those guys were really, really fun to watch. I didn't have to do much as a coach. They were an incredible group to work with, and they truly accomplished some special things. To be honest with you, I have a hard time taking any credit whatsoever from any of those championships because the reality is if you put 6 of me on the court, we're not winning any of those championships. So, and those are the guys that put so much hard work in day out, and they deserve all the credit in the world. But it was certainly a heck of an experience and a really fun ride.
Yeah, that pretty much started off to being one of the more premier. You all started to be pretty much the premier programs, and I hate to bring this up, but in 2017 you knocked off Long Beach State, which was pretty much one of the hotter teams with DeFalco and Josh Tuaniga. And for those of you from Long Beach that are listening, please do forgive me, but I have to talk about this. What was that like, getting a big win over Long Beach State in the semifinals?
Well, I think going back to 2016, that's, I'm not honestly bringing it up on purpose, but we beat Long Beach State on the road when Josh and TJ were freshmen and ranked number 1 in the country at the time. We beat them in 5 in the pyramid, and that really launched that team's success, both in 2016 and 2017. That really got that team to start believing that they could actually do it. But I think anytime you beat a program like Long Beach State, it's a huge honor. It's a big accomplishment because of what they've been able to do year in, year out. They're a program that doesn't rebuild, they reload, and it's a testament to what Al and Nick have been able to do. And like I said, they're going to be successful for years to come. And like I said, anytime you can get a win over the 49ers, it's definitely a good day and something to remember.
Absolutely, and despite you all getting the win, you all deserved it. Like, your team was absolutely amazing. Like, I don't think anything was stopping that team. Like, y'all were like a freaking freight train.
Yeah, I think sometimes the only thing that was stopping those teams were service errors, but I think we were able to minimize those for the most part, thankfully.
Yes, absolutely. So, I believe you got your first start as the official head coach of Ohio State in 2018. When you heard that you were the head coach, what was that feeling like, and how ready were you in regards to coaching Ohio State?
I think it's one of those things where it's hard to be prepared for, and I think everybody that's preparing to be a head coach, and as you get that job for the first time, you want to tell yourself that you're, as ready for it as you possibly can be. But there are a lot of experiences that are really difficult to prepare for if you haven't been in that position. But that said, when you're surrounded by great people, it's such a cliche, but I learned the importance of that cliche really, really quickly on this job. And just with getting, great people around me, like my boss, Janine Oman, who's been unbelievable. Hudson Bates, Luke Maloney, our assistants, and Mitch Lush, our director of ops. Those people have been amazing to work with, and we've worked really well together as a team. But I mean, even going back the first day on finding out that I get the job, it was something that I was really excited for my wife, because it was a difficult process in a sense, because as you're going into that process, you don't know whether you're going to be the head coach of your dream program or not have a job. So it's kind of the fear of the unknown it was tough at that time. So, and my wife was a really big supporter and did a really phenomenal job of, helping me through that. And so I was really happy for her and really excited for the both of us when we got it. That was the first thing that came into my mind.
Who are some of the more memorable players that you've coached in your short tenure?
Oh, that's a great question. Stephen Kehoe is the setter of the 2011 National Championship team when I was a volunteer at Ohio State, and he's somebody I'm still in contact with on a regular basis. Just the drive that he had, the leadership ability he had was second to none. Sean Sangre was as tough as any human being I've ever worked with or coached. He was also on that 2011 championship team. And Kevin Tilley and his desire to learn. There's just as much as possible and constantly, relying on his humility so that he could become the best version of himself was something that I always remember. There's a lot of guys too that nobody's ever heard of. There's a young man, Josh Tublin, who's now in med school, who was on those 2016, 2017 championship teams. And he was a guy that never, he knew he wasn't going to be the starting libero, but he was always the first one to walk in the door for extra reps, knowing full well that was going to motivate the starters to get in and get extra reps and make them better and motivate them. So those are the things that, that stick with me. As a coach, I think a lot of people assume that we do all the teaching, but the reality is that there have been a lot of players that I've learned a ton from, beyond the Nick Zerzins, the Kevin Tillers of the world, and those guys have been super memorable too. But there's also a lot of great people that nobody's ever heard of that have done a lot for these programs.
Awesome. Great stuff. Now, a former player of Orange Coast College being Chase Moothart, what was he like, and what can you say about Chase's gameplay? Because I witnessed him win a state championship with OCC back in 2017, and he was a dynamite player.
Yeah, Chase is a gamer too. I think volleyball, especially when you get to the top, top programs or top teams in a given year, it's a lot about being clutch. How good are you in late situations, high pressure situations, something that Nick Zerzin excelled at. And Chase was really good at that. You could put him in a high pressure situation to go in and put a jump spin in and put a tough one in, and he would do it every time. No matter what the situation was. And he was someone that I talked with Travis with pretty early on while he was at OCC, and Travis talked to me about his pretty passionate desire to be at Ohio State, and it was very similar to me in my path to Ohio State, and it was something that I really wanted to help make happen, and something that I knew was going to benefit the program no matter what, because of the passion that he had to be here and how motivated he was to be a Buckeye.
Hey, that's great stuff. Great stuff. One of the more memorable moments that Chase had was, I think it was a couple years back when Ohio State played Long Beach State, and it was the third set, and you all needed to take the third set in order to stay alive. And he just came in with just a pair of strong serves. And I was actually in the crowd saying, "Put Chase in," and it actually worked. So,
well, he was always the first serving set to fall off the bench, so it's not surprising. But he was always really good in those situations. He was a guy that we gained a lot of trust in those tough situations. If you're being a serving sub, that's a huge component of it, but it's also something that's really hard to find. The combined talent of being able to hit a effective jump serve at this level, but also be able to do it in that kind of a situation is something that I'll definitely remember for a while with Chase.
All right, now we're going to shift over to a question that I'd like to know. Okay, so despite this team not being in the same conference as you, what's the rivalry like with Penn State? And do you consider it a rivalry with Penn State?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it's without a doubt. It's especially within our own household. My wife is a Penn State graduate and is the biggest Penn State fan I know. So it's definitely a rivalry. If not just only in our household, but no, it's been really cool, especially with my time back with the women's program there and getting to know Pav and Coach Millen and Ryan. They're a great group of people there and have done a phenomenal job. Have such a long history of success with that program. We certainly would love for that rivalry to grow beyond what it even is right now. Just because of the level of success that they've achieved and what they did while Matt Anderson was there and the success that they had even after he was gone, just set the standard for programs outside of California and kind of reset the level of expectation for those programs and really help pave the way for our success in 16 and 17 and well, even in 2011. So. We have a great deal of respect for Penn State, and we look forward to growing that rivalry again beyond what it even is right now.
Your team actually beat Penn State twice, and Penn State looked really improved. They were one of the more improved teams in the nation. What was that like beating Penn State, and what just clicked for you all in both of those wins?
Yeah, I think this year we were up and down. We were pretty streaky, not within a match, but just for bunches of matches we would go on streaks and bad and good. And I think you see that with inexperienced teams and some younger teams that don't have a lot of starter experience. But I think when you get in matches like that with a rival, the level of focus is pretty high, and typically you get the best of your team in those types of situations. So, and it was I was always great to see that playing a team with the level of talent and success that they had this last year. They'd certainly done a great job, and it was a big confidence boost beating them both times. And the unfortunate part about the second time we beat them was it was the last match of the year for us, and we were really excited to see what kind of momentum that could give us towards the going to the end of the year.
Now, obviously, there is no Big Ten in men's volleyball. If for some reason there is a Big Ten that gets formed, what would you be looking forward to if a Big Ten manages to get fielded with like all those teams like Nebraska and Wisconsin and all that?
Yeah, I would look forward to the effect that would have on the sport in general. That there's no question the crowds at Nebraska would be huge, just like they are for the women. The getting to play in Wisconsin's arena, which is historical and super cool. Just those facilities and the atmospheres that you would get within the Big Ten would be pretty special. And but again, more than anything, I just that would be huge for the growth of the sport, especially the growth of the sport in areas outside of California, where it obviously prospers. But I think the growth of areas outside of that are hugely important for the sustainable growth of the sport, and that's something that a lot of people, including myself, strongly believe we can make it happen, regardless of the amount of work and money and time that it will take. There'll be one day the Big Ten will sponsor men's volleyball, and I'll certainly be looking forward to that day. Hopefully, I'll be around when it happens.
Yeah, I hope so too. It would definitely be great growth for the game and all of that. So you actually mentioned the word atmosphere and opposing gyms. Of all the gyms you've been in terms of NCAA, what has been your favorite opposing gym to be in?
Ooh, that's a great question. In 2009, we played in the Final Four and lost to UC around in the semis at BYU in the Smith Fieldhouse in Provo, and that was pretty exceptional. I think anytime that you're there, even if BYU's not playing, it was a pretty special place to be at. I think, oh man, that's a really good question. UCLA was a pretty cool place to play. I think every one of those venues, because the way the NCAA sets it up, is pretty cool and pretty fun. But I think if there's one venue that I'd have to pick, it would be Rec Hall, Penn State, simply because we won 2 championships with Ohio State there. So that's got to be the best opposing gym to the Final Four for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. Rec Hall is definitely a great place, and they have some passionate volleyball fans, not just on the women's side, but the men's side too. So I don't blame you for saying Rec Hall.
No doubt.
All right, so
yes, they do.
Yeah, so one player I know on Ohio State, and who I actually witnessed played back in his high school days, was Ethan Talley. What can you say about him and pretty much his growth?
Yeah, he was somebody that came in, day one, wanting to get extra reps, wanting to put the extra time in, wanting to become the best version of himself, and not just saying it, but showing it on a daily basis. And, it's been really fun to see his growth, both on and off the court. He's had a lot of success with, some professional development that we've done, and, obtaining some pretty unique and pretty cool special internships. He's somebody that's again, put a ton of work in, to help himself become, the best version of himself by the end of his career, both on and off the court and professionally too. So I give him a lot of credit. He's a very hard worker and very driven, and somebody that we're really, really happy to have as part of the program.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how Talley performs once he gets his chance to spread his wings. what have you seen? What growth have you seen from Ethan regarding his impact ever since from his freshman year to his sophomore year?
Yeah, he's always been, he's always been an offensive threat for us because he can do so many different things offensively, and that was always a strength of his from day one. His blocking has really come a long way. He's done a really good job of not only processing the information that we're throwing at him, but again seeing the game and reading the game in a little bit of a different way than he had done in the past. Identifying things situationally, and he's done a really good job with that and growing in that area and taking a lead, in the team defensive area, especially at the net. And he's somebody that's the hard work has certainly paid off, especially in this last year.
Great stuff. So now let's talk about Ohio State as a whole. So if you had to describe the culture of Ohio State men's volleyball and the whole culture at Ohio State, what would you describe the culture to someone who's like new to Ohio State or someone that's just wants to know a lot about Ohio State?
Yeah, so it's a great question, but a tough question, and something that we obviously get a lot through the recruiting trail. But my answer is that it's something it's hard to answer, quite frankly. It's something that I think in order to get a genuine, accurate representation of our team culture, you got to feel it and see it on a regular basis. But we got a lot of really good guys, but we got a lot of really good guys that are disciplined and hardworking and understand the value of hard work and understand that there aren't any shortcuts. If they want to be successful, they all got to get on the same page. They all have to work together. We're not going to do it for them. We're going to encourage them. We're going to show them the path and help them along the way. And they're going to challenge each other more than anything. We tell our guys that this program, this culture is theirs. They have a lot of control and a lot of power of what they want their program to be. And we encourage them to take initiative, to make it what they want to be, to take control of, the results and the achievements that they're looking to, accomplish in their time here at Ohio State. But, I think it's a culture that's honest across the board. It's something that, we're unselfish and, we have a pretty unique brotherhood. It's a fun group to be a part of, and it's a positive group to be a part of. I think that's something that we always strive for. And, we're always looking for the positive end, and we're always looking for, what we can do to control the situation to make it, to help us reach our ultimate objective.
Great stuff. If I pretty much asked what was the culture like, if I was like a new student at Ohio State, I would definitely have my eyes open and be like, "Whoa, that's something great," and I'm definitely looking forward to being at Ohio State. So, coaching is a lifestyle. From watching tape to game planning to teaching and coaching young men, what has coaching taught you about life?
It's taught me a lot. I think, more importantly, you gotta lead by example. If you want to get a group of young men to really look up to you and follow you and apply what you're telling them, then you gotta show them the way. You gotta lead with discipline. You gotta lead with hard work. You gotta provide opportunities for them to learn on their own as much as anything. I think I'm somebody that always looks at my own mistakes and tries to learn as much as I can. I think mistakes are an opportunity to grow, and the unique part about coaching is you can learn from other people's mistakes as well. You see a broad range of circumstances and backgrounds, and that leads to different life experiences that we as coaches get to learn from as well. And we get to learn as we help these guys, learn from those mistakes. And it's something that it is fun because it's this whole life journey is a big path and challenging path, and something that we all have to make sure we take advantage of those challenges and mistakes so we can become the best versions of ourselves. And I think when it comes to coaching in life, it's all one and the same, really. And the more opportunities that we have to learn, the better off we're going to be.
You being one of the more younger coaches in the NCAA in terms of men's volleyball, what have been some challenges for you as you took over a storied program as Ohio State?
Oh, yeah, another great question. I've been fortunate to not have a whole ton of challenges just because of the people that we have around us. There's we have great people around you. I have a great boss, Janine. She's been phenomenal, and she's somebody that from the very beginning she wanted to make sure that I knew that she was available if anything came up, or if there were any anything that I wanted to gain her perspective on or get her advice on. So I've been fortunate to have her to bounce off ideas off of, or thoughts off of. Working for Russ Rose, he's been somebody that has been able to talk with on a regular basis. Doug Beal, former head coach of our program and former national team coach, has been somebody I've become very close with over the last year. He's become a very close mentor of mine. Charlie Sullivan's won multiple national championships at Springfield. Pete Hansen, obviously, Travis Turner. I've been very, very, very fortunate to have a lot of great head coaches around me and our staff, and people that are willing to help us out and provide a lot of guidance for me. So, to answer that question, I've had challenges, but I've also had a lot of help along the way that have helped me ease those tensions greatly.
Great stuff, Kevin. Now, here's a question that we're gonna have a little fun with. So, let's say I want to come up to Columbus, Ohio, and I want to get something to eat, and I want to not be a restaurant chain. Where is the best place in Columbus, Ohio, to get something to eat at?
Well, first I'll start this off by saying that Forbes ranked Columbus as a top 10 foodie town within the last year. So there are tons of great places to go to. Our go-to, though, is Marcello's, which is an Italian restaurant that is in downtown Columbus, right in Short North. That is phenomenal. It's really, really good. And we have been missing it terribly these last few months, and we can't wait to get back. But it's a great spot. I'm sure a lot of people that played in junior nationals while it was hosted in Columbus might remember that restaurant, because it's a popular one and one I definitely recommend.
I shall definitely keep that in mind. Are there
Can't go wrong with the veal meatball. It's as good as it gets.
Yep. Now you got me hungry and thinking about some food. Now, are there any famous burger joints in Columbus, Ohio, or is there anything like somewhat of an In-N-Out up there, or is pretty much nothing going to trump In-N-Out? Yeah,
that's a great question. In-N-Out, there's certainly no In-N-Outs in Columbus, I will say that. There are a lot of good places to get a good burger. North Star is a great restaurant that can serve up a pretty mean burger. I'm not a big burger guy myself, if you can believe that, but there are certainly a lot of great places in Columbus. I just can't nail it offhand right now.
Great stuff. Good stuff. All right, now, to keep on the subject of food, whether your team wins or whether your team loses, what is your favorite go-to place to have a quick bite to eat after the game?
Staff always goes to Rusty Bucket, which is a restaurant about a mile away from Cabelli. Has some pretty good wings that we all take full advantage of after every home match.
Great to hear. All right, so now what is something you want your athletes to leave the Ohio State with?
I want them to leave with great relationships and great experiences that will ultimately lead to them having or be preparing them for 40 years of professional life, that a successful professional life. I think. I tell people often that, when you are done with your career at Ohio State, what are you going to look back on? What are you going to say that, oh man, I'm glad I picked Ohio State because of this, this, or this? It's usually going to be the people. So, and the experiences that you have with those people. So that's something that I want to provide. That's hugely important for me, for our student athletes. But more importantly, I want to challenge them. I want them to look back and be, and look back at those tough situations that we put them in, look back at the times that we challenged them. And look that it helped make them better, and then help them accomplish things they never thought they could. I think that's something that's a big part of coaching is helping young men gain self-confidence in areas off the court as well, not just on the court. And I think a big part of that is pushing them to accomplish things they don't think they can do, whether it's conscious or subconscious. But I think those are all things that I really strive to help our student athletes accomplish by the time they're done with their career.
To add to that question, is there something in particular that you or your coaching staff does best to install in your players as young men, aside from being Division I athletes?
Yeah, there are values that we have our guys all choose each year, and I think giving them that opportunity and that ownership to accomplish great things and putting some of that onus on them, and giving them opportunities to learn for themselves is something that I think is hugely important. I think to point to something specific, we've put a huge emphasis on academics. Our guys had a 3.71 GPA this last semester, which was top 7, I think. We just learned, or it was the ABCA team honor roll. So it was they're the top 7 GPA amongst all men's volleyball programs across all 3 divisions, which is pretty special. And something that they deserve all the credit for in the world. They've worked really, really hard and applied that work ethic to areas off the court as well. But we also put a big emphasis on professional development. I think, I went into one of my first big interviews and realized I didn't have a whole lot of interview experience. And so we work really hard to get them, mock interview experience. We resume help. We try to get them, push them to get in job shadowing opportunities. And they not only, know what kind of job that they're going to look for, but they know it's going to be something that they're passionate about. And something that they know they're confident that it's something they want to pursue after their time here at Ohio State. So, I think the professional development one is something that I believe in, and something that our guys have really bought into and had a lot of success with as well.
So this has been a theme on my show when it comes to guests, that my guests have also played junior college volleyball. What could you say about playing junior college volleyball before going to a 4-year university? Because obviously we had Chase Moodhart doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a really, really special experience. I learned a lot from that experience. I saw a lot of other guys get opportunities that they normally wouldn't otherwise had. Me as a perfect example, I think I had an opportunity because I wasn't good enough in a lot of other places, and but it got me that team and experience and playing experience that I wouldn't have otherwise gotten. There are other guys that either didn't have grades or because of past mistakes didn't have opportunities to play Division I, so got their second chance at a JUCO, and because of Travis, and so I think it's kind of the second chance place to go, and I don't mean that in a bad way at all. I think it's an unbelievable opportunity for guys to learn from their mistakes under an unbelievable leader in Travis, and somebody that's going to be honest with you and tell you, hey, these are the decisions you made, and this is why you're here. These are why these are the decisions that led to your mistakes, and this is what you need to do if you want to get to where you want to be. And I think there's a lot of junior college coaches that have an insanely huge impact on their student athletes, and Travis is the perfect example. He's provided opportunities to guys to play Division I more so than any other JUCO coach that I could think of, in large part because of how he's taught guys to learn from their mistakes and how he instills confidence in guys, and how he relates to them in those situations. It's pretty remarkable, and I think he deserves a lot of credit, not just for guys that have come out of OCC. I think because of the success that guys have had out of OCC, it's led to a lot of the success from other junior colleges, and he's somebody that's looking to help other people regardless of what program you're in, and I think he deserves a lot of credit for what he's been able to do for junior college volleyball, and for OCC especially.
Agreed. So, according to the Ohio State men's volleyball website, you captained the Orange Coast College men's volleyball team for Travis Turner. What was that like, and what did Travis teach you back when you were a player?
It's funny. Looking back on that experience, I think I was captain with Kevin Welch, who was the true team captain. He willed us to so many wins, and helped us, accomplish things that we probably shouldn't have accomplished, and was an exceptional leader. I think I was the guy that, knew I wasn't really going to have a big impact on the court, but still showed up every day and get extra reps and still wanted to be a part of the team and do whatever I could to help the team win. And I was just the classic team first guy that wanted to work hard. And I think, and wanted to be there every single day. I think that was why Travis had me as a captain. Having a lot of coaching experience already at that point through Balboa Bay, I think that might have been another reason too. But, again, Travis and, Kevin Welch was our true team captain and the one that deserves the credit for it because he was a remarkable captain, a remarkable leader, and somebody I learned a lot from in that 1 year experience.
Great stuff. And what were some life lessons that Travis taught you back when, in terms of being a coach and or a player, and how have you used those life lessons to be the person you are right now?
He taught me a lot. He taught me how to get back up again, how to continue to stay persistent, how to provide value, even if it's not your ideal role. The value in seeing the whole entire team buy into the role, the value in true hard work. I think a lot of people say they work hard, but that was, that experience was true hard work and something that we got a lot of benefit out of. And, we made it to the state championship that year. And, I think from a talent perspective, I think Travis would be the first to tell you that we were a state championship talent level team. But we saw what buy-in and from everybody, what unselfishness from everybody, and what hard work from everybody can produce. It was a pretty special group, and a lot of those guys I'll remember for a long time. And again, it was just it was a lot of fun and something again that I learned a lot of, not just a lot of great memories from, but a lot of life lessons, like you said.
Despite not living in California, what are some things you miss in California as opposed to being in Columbus, Ohio?
Mexican food, without a doubt. Mexican food is what I miss a ton. The beach, obviously, I miss, but I love going to the beach, but it's not a huge thing I miss. I guess Mexican food would be the first thing I usually have when I get back home to see my family.
Good stuff. All right, so are you more of a beach person, or do you like the snow, or are you just in the middle?
I'm just in the middle. I wouldn't consider myself one or the other, to be honest. If I had to pick one, it would be the beach. But I'm not somebody that has to be at the beach every day or can't live without it. I'm more of a relationship guy. I'd rather be around the people that I enjoy being around, regardless of what the weather is.
All right, a couple more questions, and then we're pretty much going to wrap up. So, if you had to give advice to any up-and-coming coach who's trying to build a program from the ground up, what advice would you give them?
The best advice I got it was from our wrestling coach. Actually, our AD gave me some really good advice too. Within the first week that I was hired, the AD Gene Smith told me to find 3 people that are going to be honest with me, and that was something that I will always remember. He said it's so important that you get people that are going to give you honest feedback. And it doesn't mean you have to take it all the time, but you need people that are going to bounce ideas off of you and keep your biases in check and help you grow as a leader, as a person. And then the other advice I got was from our wrestling coach here at Ohio State, who told me he said, always over deliver. He's like, if you apply that idea of philosophy to your life, to your job, you're going to do great things. And so whether it's fundraising, recruiting, planning practice, whatever it may be, I'm always going to try to over deliver in whatever I do, so that our guys will eventually do the same thing and in their training and in other things that they do as student athletes.
Great advice, Kevin. Great advice. So, who have been some of your favorite coaches you've coached against, and how have they made you a better coach and a better person overall?
Ooh, man, that's another great question. There's so many. I think that Dan Friend has done an exceptional job. He's somebody that I've always look to, not only, especially in the last year since getting a job, he's become almost a mentor of sorts and somebody I've asked a lot of questions of, and he's been really, really helpful, and somebody that I look to a lot, but also look at their game tape, and we've learned a lot from what he's done with them on the court over the last few years, and I've learned a lot from Long Beach State. That Al Knipe has done a lot of great things on the court. I think back to one of my earlier experiences coaching against John Farrar and UC Irvine when I was doing blocking defense for Ohio State, and we did some different things at the time. We did some what we call trap blocking and kind of took some more chances with our blocking and defense, and it worked early on in the year when we played and beat UC Irvine in 5, and then I learned pretty quickly that it was kind of a one-trick pony, kind of a short-term trick, I guess you could say, that we used from a blocking standpoint, because when we played them the next time, they took full advantage of that system, and it was not nearly as effective as it was the first time. So there are a lot of coaches that I've learned a lot from. I think the great part about men's volleyball is that the coaching community is so close-knit, and we're all able to learn from each other. I think I could go through every head coach in men's volleyball and tell you something I've learned from them, because just how close-knit we are and how willing to share information and how supportive we are as a group. It's something that I'm very lucky to be a part of and proud to be a part of as well.
Awesome, and I totally agree with you about the coaching community. And it's not just for NCAA Division 1/2. It's for NCAA Division 3, junior college, high school. The whole coaching community is definitely a close-knit relationship, so I definitely agree. All right, so now, before we wrap up, I need to ask you. Actually, one more, before I get into the last question, What was the most valuable lesson you and your team learned this year with this pandemic shutting down?
I think the one thing that we walk away from this year is just the value of a response to adverse situations, whether that's losing a point, whether that's an attack error, whether that's a tough situation off the court, whatever it may be, a bad grade or a bad test score. I think. Myself included, at times we were quick to lose confidence, and it really affected. We let mistakes and adverse situations affect us too much going forward. We were a little bit too much up and down, as opposed to just being a little bit more steady Eddie, I guess. And so we talked a lot about toughness and what that means to us, and I think that's something that we definitely learned a lot from this year. And I know our guys learned a lot about the value of the hard work that we put in. And I think you combine the lessons they learned with toughness this year. We all learned from toughness. And I think, I think it's something that keeps us exciting for the future opportunities. And hopefully those opportunities include a season this spring.
Yeah, I'm hoping we get another season next year. I'm certain we will. It all depends on if everyone can do their part, and if we get the green light from the health officials and whatnot. So, all right. So before we close off, we pretty much like to close this whole segment off on a positive note and a little bit of a lighter note. So ever since this whole pandemic started, there was this one item that just flew off the shelves of stores. Like, it instantly vanished without a trace, and nobody here knows why. So my question to you, Kevin, is this: did you have enough toilet paper?
My wife and I are really big fans of Costco, and because of that, we're always big fans of shopping in bulk. So we did have enough toilet paper. Thankfully, we didn't panic buy. I will say that. So we didn't have too much, but we never experienced a shortage, thankfully. So we were lucky.
Great stuff, and that's good that Columbus, Ohio has a Costco there. I thought.
Yeah, 3, and they're all well stocked. Apparently, is what we learned.
Well, that's good to know. In case I move to Columbus, I know where to go in order to get my needs. Anyway, Anyway, thank you so much, Kevin, for being a guest on Set Point. We're actually going to ask you to stay on the line for a little bit as we're going to go to commercial break. And when we come back, I'm going to pretty much talk some AVP and some high school boys and girls volleyball news in terms of California. So you're listening to Set Point here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Drivers, start your engines. Auto racing takes many forms, from the close quarter contact of NASCAR
to the high-speed, high-risk atmosphere of IndyCar,
all the way to the pinnacle of technology with the Formula One World Championship.
No matter if you prefer the high banks of Daytona,
the concrete canyons of Long Beach,
or the flowing curves of the Nürburgring.
The international language of motorsports is simple. Go fast,
run hard,
and come home first.
So join us, myself, Darrell Kinsey Jr.,
Lolita Camello,
and Michael Ward,
on a world tour of all the best motorsports has to offer on the Extra Mile, Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, only on your home for all. That is sports, i.e. Sports Radio.
From the home plate to the nets, the end zone to the finish line, here nothing is off limits and no sport is safe. Not what it seems with your host Caitlin Seam, bringing you sports like you've never heard before. Catch me Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, right here on IA Sports Radio. The only question is, are you ready?
Drivers, start your engine.
And we are back to Set Point. Sorry about that. That little abrupt stopped. My little mouse accidentally clicked on the play button for the Extra Mile, and honestly, that was a complete and total accident. I scrolled my little mouse pad of my laptop, and believe it or not, I accidentally clicked on the circle as I was going to disable Auto DJ, and it's like, ugh. Anyway, thank you once again to Kevin Burch of the Ohio State men's volleyball team. It is greatly appreciated that he came on. Great guy overall. And honestly, little backstory between he and I. He was actually one of the first few coaches I met at Orange Coast College. I wanted to meet Travis Turner and then to interview him about his team's up-and-coming season, and then I got to know Kevin Burch a whole lot more, and it's like, okay. And he also helped me back when I was at Orange Coast College in case I needed a quote or I needed stats or anything. So definitely a great have on. It was great to meet him that year, and I definitely love the relationship that he and I had, and I'm glad he's doing great things over at Ohio State, and his resume speaks for himself. He's been a part of some great teams such as the Springfield's men's volleyball team, the Penn State women's volleyball team, which won the national championship back in 2015, the Ohio State men's volleyball team back in 2016 and 17 when he was an assistant coach. He did, like I said, he did a lot of great things for OCC, Orange Coast College. So yeah, great to have him on as a guest for Set Point, and we're definitely gonna hopefully have him on again in the near future, and it would be great if we did. So anyway, now to move on to the next topic, being the AVP. Yes, the AVP, we're gonna be recapping a volleyball event that happened for the first time since this whole pandemic started. So for the first time since this whole pandemic started, it's time to recap a volleyball event. Time to sound the thunder and get the crowd hyped up. Okay, it's not that important. Okay, so anyway, so now we have ourselves the Monster Hydro Cup. So the Monster Hydro Cup took place in Long Beach, California, and quick and dirty, short and sweet. The winner of the women's Hydro Cup tournament was April Ross and Alex Kleinman. They defeated Sarah Hughes and Wilkerson in the final, and I was not surprised that Alex Kleinman and April Ross won. So it to me was no real surprise, and I just couldn't. It was no surprise. So they're known as the A team for a reason. So so that's a thing right there. That's a big reason as well. So yeah, that's my little. That's the short and that's the Diet Coke version. But getting into detail. April Ross and Alex Kleinman didn't have too much difficulty getting to the final. Like, they were the top seed of the tournament for a reason, and I think the only set they lost was in the semifinals, which was to a very talented team. I think they were the number 2 seed. The number 2 seed. I'm getting my information off of avp.com. The number 2 seed was, I'm probably going to butcher their names, Humana Paredes Pavin, and Kleinman and Ross were the number 1 seeds, and those two, they formatted the seeds pretty interestingly. Like, it's not the standard 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3. It was double elimination, honestly, and Melissa Humana Paredes and Sarah Pavin both were actually a loss. They're actually 2 semifinals. If you win the 2 semifinals, you're automatically in the official semi. Actually, no, I meant to say there are 2 quarterfinals. If you win your 2 quarterfinal matchups, you're automatically into the semifinals. If you lose one quarterfinal matchup, you have to play in an elimination bracket. Like, if you lose your first quarterfinal, you play in a loser's bracket. And then I believe the winner of that gets to move on. The winner of that matchup gets to move on, and then the loser ties for 5th. And then there's also a contenders bracket. Like, it's basically if you lose in the first round of the knockout round of the main draw. And one pair that I was actually quite impressed with was Tracy Callahan and Chrissy Jones. Now, granted, they weren't seeded, but those two really impressed me. For not being seeded, they made it all the way to the finals of the contenders bracket, where they lost to Sarah Hughes. And her partner, Brandy Wilkerson. It wasn't surprising, though, because Sarah Hughes is definitely a highly touted volleyball player, and Brandy Wilkerson is also talented, being from Canada, so I think she also had experience playing on the Beach Canada team or something like that. Not entirely certain, but Wilkerson and Hughes definitely were no slouches, as they made it all the way to the final. They even upset Sarah Hughes' former partner, Kelly Clace, as well as beating former UCLA indoor and beach volleyball player Sarah Sponsel. And those two actually pulled an upset as well, as they were the ones that beat Melissa Humana Paredes and Sarah Pavin. So I'm not ultimately surprised that Kelly Clace and Sarah Sponsel pulled that upset, because those two are highly touted, and those two have NCAA championship experience. And for those that, like I said on Twitter, for those that think that Bruins and Trojans can't work together, you can go take a seat, baby. So, so that's pretty much my little spiel. But back to Tracy Callahan and Chrissy Jones. They finished tied for, I believe they finished tied for 5th, according to the AVP. If I could, yes, that. Yeah, it says loser takes for 5th place. So the two tied for 5th place, along with Klonsky and Stockman. So Kelly Larson and Emily Stockman. So I was definitely impressed with those two. But Jones is, I've seen Jones play. Like, indoor wise, Chrissy Jones is a dynamite player. Beach wise, she's definitely gotten better, and she continues to perfect her craft. She's a former Los Alamitos star, Los Alamitos High girls volleyball player. She helped the Griffins win a CIF championship back in 2013. She's also a definitely dominant player for the University of Washington in their indoor program, in their beach program. And she also transferred to Cal Poly her senior year and performed well at I think she was according to from what my sources said, that she was the top player, number 1 player for the Cal Poly beach volleyball team. And that's definitely huge right there, considering Cal Poly is one of the more premier teams in the Big West, second to probably Hawaii. So to me, Chrissy Jones dominating is no surprise. But this being a highly regarded event, I was quite impressed. Unfortunately, they did lose in 2 sets to they lost in 2 sets to Sarah Pavin and Melissa Humana Paredes, but that's all right. I mean, to get that far and to get 5th place despite not being seeded is quite amazing. They even pulled quite I wouldn't say a big upset, but beating Emily Day and Lauren Fendrick is quite amazing. Those two are no slouch either, and to me, I think Chrissy Jones really perfected her craft, and hopefully I do get to have her high school girls volleyball coach as a guest here on Set Point. It would be great to have her coach here as a guest, because I'm sure he was watching the whole AVP Monster Hydro Cup as well. So, and he and I are good friends. So if he is a guest, don't be surprised. So that's my little take on Chrissy Jones and Tracy Callahan. Callahan definitely did a great job, and the fact that they qualified for the main draw is no easy feat as well. So those are my overachievers of the tournament, and I would say Sarah Hughes and Brandy Wilkerson were overachieved as well, but those two were seeded. Like, that was a top 4 seed, and I knew they were gonna at least make it to the semifinals. So the fact that that team made it all the way to the finals, I don't think they overachieved. I think they were right there, and I really hope that Sarah Hughes does get to win another AVP event. She's right there when it comes to winning it, and she has won an event, and she's won a couple events, and I think she won something earlier in the year. I'm not entirely sure, but she did win something with Lauren Fendrick. I believe it was somewhere outside of the United States, so I'm not entirely sure, but I'm not going to dwell too much on this, on what she won and what she didn't win. But the fact that April Ross and Alex Kleinman won the event, not overly surprising. They did get a little bit of a battle in the final when Hughes and Wilkerson took them on, but honestly, experience helped April Ross and Alex Kleinman win. Like, those two really know their stuff. Like, again, there's a reason why they're called the A team. And it's not a pun because those two begin with their first names don't begin with the letter A. It's not because their names begin with the letter A. It's because they're such a dominant force, and they're not. You gotta play practically perfect volleyball against them if you want to beat them. And the fact that Paredes was able to take a set off them. Paredes and her partner was able to take a set off them. It was quite amazing as well. So that's pretty much my little thing on the women's side. As for the men's side was won by Nick Lucena and Phil Dalhausser, as according to AVP.com, they actually won their final in thrilling fashion. They managed to beat Jake Gibb and Taylor Crabb in a 3-set thriller, 21-19, 13-21, and 15-13. The match went the distance, and that's what you love in a final. A match going the distance, and a match being that close. Oh, by the way, for the women's final, April Ross and Alex Kleinman defeated Sarah Hughes and Brandy Wilkerson 24-22 and 22-20. So both those games were deuce games. So that was definitely worth noting. And both finals didn't cease to disappoint. And I would have liked it if the women's final went 3. I've been watching too much indoor volleyball. But if that final, the beach final, went 3 sets on the women's side, it would have been something really great to see. But I'm happy that April Ross and Alex Kleinman won. April Ross did go to my high school, and hopefully we do get to have her high school coach on as a guest. Obviously, Tom Pestolacy, who we had a few weeks ago, coached April Ross back when Ross was at Newport Harbor and back when Pestolacy was at Newport Harbor. So we'll see. The sky's the limit for this show. So back to the men's side, Nick Lucena and Phil Dalhausser beat Jake Gibb and Taylor Crabb in a thriller, and it wasn't easy for both of them as according to as their path to the final was definitely a tough one, honestly, and I definitely think it could have gone either way in that final. Like the third set was back and forth, and it could have gone either way, to be honest. But in the end, Nick Lucena and Phil Dalhausser pretty much won the day. It wasn't too surprising. I kind of wish that Taylor Crabb... I mean, nothing against it, but Taylor Crabb and Jake Gibb being the number 2 seed overall in this tournament was not really surprising to see them in the final. So, good on them. I'm glad to see those two made the final dramatic, but it would have been great to see another team try to challenge them, because I think those were the only two. That was the only pair that can pretty much defeat them. So now Dalhausser and Lucena's path to the final, they didn't really consisted of not really dropping a set until the final. As for Taylor Crabb and Jake Gibb, they pretty much were perfect throughout most of the weekend. They won their first round game, and they won their quarterfinal game, and they won their semifinal game against Chase Budinger and James Schalk in 3 sets. But that's pretty much where I thought that they were in for it against Dalhausser and Lucena. Obviously, they gave them all that they can handle, but Dalhausser and Lucena, they were just too much for them, honestly. And And to be honest, it wouldn't surprise me if those two won the next event. But Taylor Crabb and Jake Gibb, they're right there. They are knocking on that door. They're not too far back from Dalhouser and Lucena. So big ups to Taylor Crabb and Jake Gibb. Something that definitely does need to be noted is that Taylor Crabb's brother Trevor Crabb, along with Tri Bourne, actually got to face Taylor Crabb and Jake Gibb, which it was definitely really something to see. Crab versus Crab, especially if you're from Long Beach. Like, those two both went to Long Beach State, and they both played for the Long Beach State men's volleyball program, so that was something worth noting. And honestly, it was great to see a Crab versus Crab matchup. And I think I even called that matchup as well. I think I called it a couple weeks ago. Not entirely sure, but I knew that Tri Bourne and Trevor Crabb had to pull off some sort of upset against Budinger and Schalk. So the fact that they pulled the upset in the first round is quite amazing. The first round of the main draw. So big ups to Tri Bourne and Trevor Crabb. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough. They just couldn't keep it going. They actually did qualify for the semifinals. They won their little contenders matchup, their contenders finals match. Unfortunately, they faced Dalhouser and Lucena, and they lost in straight sets. But hey, I think Tri Bourne and Trevor Crabb were my underachievers on the men's side, to be honest. I think those two definitely, for being a 6 seed, I know they were seeded, but for being 6 seeded, I knew that they were going to have a rough path to the final, but But at the same time, I knew that if Trevor Crabb won to face his brother Taylor, he was going to need to play some darn good volleyball, and he did in the first round of the main draw. So that was definitely a big time win for a 6 seed to knock off a 3 seed. So I was quite impressed, honestly, especially since the men's side didn't really feature too many upsets. So the fact that we got to see Crab versus Crab in one of the matchups was great. It would have been great to see Crab versus Crab in the final, but Dalhouser and Lucena are definitely too much for anyone. So we'll see what happens going forward. The next tournament in terms of the AVP is the Wilson Cup, and that'll take place on July 24th and July 26th. The brackets are to be announced, so according to the AVP site. So we'll see who the seeds are when everything gets to be released. I'll try to keep everyone up to date in terms of that event. Unfortunately, I do have to work and make a whole lot of money, and hopefully Jack gets to be back next week. He had to work as well, and he had to work late as well, but again, it's the grind. You can't really take that away from us, and we're out here trying to get a whole lot of money, so you can just call us Antonio Brown. Except not. Do not call us Antonio Brown. So anyway, that's pretty much my spiel for the AVP. The number one seeds obviously were the top dogs, but there were some great matchups, and the finals didn't disappoint. So I think there are some pairs we need to watch out for, and there are those pairs that were seeded. Obviously, the pairs that didn't win the tournament that were seeded are definitely right there in terms of possibly winning. And then there are also those that were not seeded that managed to win their way into the main draw, which would basically be like the top 8, or I just call it the top 8 or the top 10, or the important matchup, the preliminary round. So that's kind of my deal. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much going to be it for the AVP portion of this show. It would be great. Again, I'm not really the biggest in terms of AVP, but it's kind of the only thing we've got, and I've been pretty much try to keep updated on the AVP, despite me having to work on a bunch of other things like family-orientated stuff, and then I wish I could have seen the final or gotten updated on the final, but I was at work on Sunday, so again, it's the grind. So now let's move on to some high school boys and girls volleyball news in terms of the CIF Southern section. Now, yesterday the CIF Southern section made the decision to push back fall sports, meaning we won't be getting girls volleyball in the fall. Instead, we're going to pretty much we're not going to see high school girls volleyball in California, or maybe in maybe also in other states, until like the winter. But in terms of California, the girls volleyball season will start on August. It originally started from August, and now it's going to start in December, mid-December. The first contest will be on December 19th, and it's going to take a lot of getting used to, honestly. Like, I'm glad there will be high school sporting events in California, such as girls volleyball, but it's just going to be a little weird. Now, to top that off, the high school boys volleyball season in California, in Southern California, has now been moved as well. Originally, the high school boys volleyball season started in like late February, but now it's moving to mid-December as well. And in terms of Southern California, the boys volleyball season will start on December 12th. So, high school girls volleyball and high school boys volleyball in Southern California intertwining with one another. Who would have thunk it? But again, we're in a pandemic, and we obviously got to make change, and we got to make do with what we've got. And it's not just those two sports that got affected. It's other sports that got affected, like boys basketball is being played in the spring, high school football is being played in the winter. Like, it's crazy, and there's going to be a lot of schedule revising. My concern for this whole thing is the coaches that coach both the boys and the girls volleyball teams at certain high schools. My thing is, can they adapt to being creative? It's going to be tough for coaches that get to coach both. Like the coach for Huntington Beach and Corona Del Mar and Beckman, and I think Tustin, and the list goes on and on. It's definitely going to be something tough, and I think also you have there are coaches that I know that coach the lower levels on the girls' side, and then they coach the varsity level on the boys' side. So it's definitely going to be tough for coaches in Southern California to pretty much be the head coach of one team and the head coach of another. They're basically going to, if you're an assistant coach, I'm going to applaud you. So I definitely got to applaud you, and I definitely got to tip my hat to you, considering, hey, Mike Pat, good evening to you too, sir. Definitely appreciate you tuning in. Definitely got to give a shout out to the chat room for tuning in. Dave Friedman came on. He says, Teran with that golden voice. Definitely appreciate you tuning in. Ben Suttereth III said, hey, Teran. Davidson Crooks came on. Larry B came in the chat room. Pierre Moss came in the chat room. Definitely appreciate y'all coming in the chat room. And good evening to you too, Mike. So definitely appreciate your support, and definitely appreciate you taking the time. And go check out Mike's show. So we only got less than 10 minutes left until the next show starts. So my bottom line is this. The ones that are going to have difficulty in regards to the high school boys volleyball season, boys and girls volleyball season in California, are the coaches and the athletes, obviously. And I appreciate you saying that I've got a golden voice. So, in addition to the coaches having to balance out coaching, you also have to think of the dual sport athletes that play volleyball and other sports. Like I think there are some players that play volleyball and football, and then they also play volleyball and basketball. Granted, and the thing that you all have to know is that there is not going to be a winter sports season. It's just going to be fall and spring. Fall sports are now going to start in December, and they're going to go until mid-March, late March, and then spring sports are going to start mid-March, and then they're going to go till late June. So this whole thing in California has just been one big mess, and it's just been really tough for the athletes and for the coaches, because there was uncertainty that there might not be a spring sports season or a fall sports season. But luckily, we are going to get some sports. So at the very least, we are going to get some contests. It's just going to take some adapting to, and it's going to be tough, especially with everything just smorgasborded down together. So it is what it is. I'm just glad we get some sports back in California on the high school wise, because in terms of high school, you don't really have another year of eligibility. Like, it was already heartbreaking that the class of 2020 seniors had their season cut short, not just in boys volleyball, but in other spring sports as well. So I'm just glad that high school sports in California are returning. This is just in the southern section, though. I'm not so sure about the San Diego section or the northern section and whatnot. I think the northern section might be Northern California, just needs the green light from all the health officials and from the committees as well. So we'll see how it goes. It just means, what this means in terms of set point is, say the NCAA women's volleyball season continues to go on as scheduled. Obviously, with with just conference games and nothing more, and then the NCAA tournament. Let's say the NCAA tournament ends in like mid-December, early December, maybe even late November. Probably, let's say early December. After the NCAA women's volleyball season, set point will then transition into high school boys and girls volleyball season. So, and then during the high school boys and girls volleyball season, the 3C2A, the California Community College Athletic Association, will be starting their men's and women's volleyball season. Like, the women's will start early spring, and then late spring will be the men's volleyball and beach volleyball. And then I think unless something comes up, the NCAA men's volleyball season should hopefully go on without a hitch. Because I think everything should return to normal in 2021. It all depends. As long as everyone just does what they're told and they don't make a huge deal of it and they just follow the guidelines, if you know what I'm saying. So, again, time will tell if this whole pandemic will end, and hopefully we get some sort of normal coming back. But all we just gotta do is wait. Like, I'm still waiting to hear from the other Power 5 conferences on if they're gonna have fall sports or not. Like, from the Big West Conference, the SEC, the Big 12. Like I said last week, the Pac-12 and the Big Ten have decided to have just only conference games only, while two conferences, the Patriot League and the Ivy League, will not be having fall sports this upcoming fall. And Mike Pat says, rough time for high school athletes. A lot about their future hangs in the balance, and that gets me to another part. Like, in terms of high school football, I don't mean to go on a football tangent, but for high school football players that have their season delayed, like, they were set to start play in the fall, and then some actually had plans to graduate early and then attend college and train with the team. Like, that's been happening in California, and then high school athletes are now faced with that decision of, do I graduate early and go to college, or do I just wait it out and finish my senior season in high school? And those are for highly recruited athletes and whatnot. So again, time will tell if everything gets moved back to normal. Hopefully, we don't get another pushback. But again, we're just hoping for the best, and we're just crossing our fingers and just hoping that everyone respects the guidelines and just does their part in order to just get rid of this pandemic. Because obviously we'd rather have no sports and everyone being safe instead of having sports and then having the whole disease just still lingering around. So again, just do your part and wash your hands. Don't make a big deal. And if you have to, do wear your mask. Not trying to make this a public service announcement. Like, if you want high school sports back, if you want college football back, if you want football back, just do what you need to do. Just follow the guidelines and whatnot. And if you don't, then the nerve of you. I'm just kidding. But for real, definitely do try to definitely follow the guidelines. It's not that difficult. It's a simple concept. You want NFL, you want NBA, you want all that jazz. Just do it. Just wear a mask. Keep your hands clean, and just don't be a Jeremy George. I kind of made that one up, but yeah, just do what you need to do. And on that note, that's going to end this episode of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me for this episode of Set Point. Thank you to Kevin Burch for being a guest here on Set Point. Next week is uncertain on if we'll have a guest or not. I don't know if we'll have Jack Stafford back, but all I know is this: Set Point is not going anywhere. We are not stopping. We're going to keep this ball rolling, and we're not going to stop for anyone, because the T train is chugging along. Choo-choo, baby. And on that note, let's get out of here. As I would always say, it's time to drop the beat, because I'm about to dip like a banana in chocolate. You dig? Like I said, thank you all for joining in to Set Point. If you're listening live, thank you for tuning in. If you're listening on the replay, thank you for taking time out of your day and listening in as well. My name is Teran Rodriguez. For everyone here at iSports Radio, thank you for all your support of our